Today we're gonna talk about Linux. Okay, what is the Linux? What is the architecture of Linux? How the commands work in Linux? What are the basic and useful commands available in Linux? Okay, which help us to achieve our day-to-day tasks. How Linux got so much popularity? Okay, so and what is the difference between Windows, Linux? So many things we're gonna cover as part of today's session. So as you are new to this particular industry, okay, and you are into the learning phase, so it will be much helpful for you. Okay. So this is the, I can say this is the basics. These are the pillars which you need to know before understanding cloud. Okay. So basically, if I talk about Linux, what is Linux? Okay. So Linux is basically a standard operating system. Okay. What is this? This is a standard operating system. And before we talk about Linux, we should talk about something which is being known as Unix. You may have heard of this particular term, Unix. So Unix was introduced in 1969. Okay. And Unix was CLI mode completely. Okay. And Unix we could use at the server end only. We couldn't use it at the client end. And it was not available for home users. Next is it was copyright. Okay, like Windows is copyright by Microsoft, right? If we want to use Microsoft Windows, we need to take licenses from Microsoft. In terms of what, we need to pay something to them, to the Microsoft. Similarly, when Unix was introduced, it was also copyright. We had to take the license of it to use it. Next one is it was hardware dependent. Okay, hardware dependent means your Unix will come with certain hardware. Okay, with that particular hardware only it will be compatible. Okay, so it was hardware dependent. Along with that, it was application dependent as well. Okay, so certain applications will run onto that particular Unix platform. The other thing is this: if you need to take some technical support, okay, technical support will be required to take from that vendor only. Okay, the vendor who has provided you, okay, who has provided you this hardware installation configuration, that particular vendor sup- uh, will only support you in terms of technical support. Okay, so it is like from where you purchased the hardware, you have to use their OS Unix and their application could be used. It was like that. Okay, so if I talk about Unix, then in Unix we had different flavors available at that moment of time. Okay, what and all. So IBM had one, which was AIX. Sun has one, which was Solaris. HP had one, that was HPUX. Apple had one, that was Mac. Okay, so there were multiple flavors like this for Unix earlier we had. Later on, your Linux was introduced. Okay, and Linux had multiple flavor. Okay, it is like, do you remember the flavors of Linux? Red Hat, right?
Yes, and Ubuntu.
CentOS, Fedora, right? Ubuntu, okay, Kali Linux. Do this way. Slackware. Oh, Turbo Linux. Okay, these are the different folders available. Okay, oh sorry, not folders. These are the multiple flavors available. Okay, and like these Red Hat, CentOS. Okay, these are the very popular operating systems at this moment of time. Red Hat, CentOS, Fedora, Ubuntu, all these. Okay, so if later on what happen is if you want to study about the Red Hat, for example, okay, if you exam also came up like RHCSA, okay, and RHCSC. Okay, these are the most popular exams which organizations are conducting. Okay, oh sorry, which the people who are willing to learn, they go for these exams. Okay, RSCSA and RHCSC. So it is like RSCSA is Red Hat certified RHCSA, sorry, Red Hat certified system administrator. Okay, and it is Red Hat certified system engineer or RC if I'm not wrong. Red Hat certified engineer. It is like this. Okay, and all of these are your Linux is basically open source. Okay, what does it mean? Hmm? What does it mean? It
Open source.
means,
Mhm.
hmm, yeah, tell me.
We can access the Linux from any other sources.
See, open source means its source code is available over the internet.
Public, yes.
Okay, source code is available on the internet. Okay, by using source code, you can modify it and use accordingly. Okay, this is the this is what the open source really mean. Okay, open source means its source code is available over the internet. You can download it, you can modify it, and you can use it as per your need. Okay, I said it is available on the internet. It means you are not required to pay anything. You can just download it, modify it, start using it. It is like this. Okay, so now if I talk about the Linux, okay, this is what we talked about. Few things about the Unix. Okay, we talked about the open source availability of Linux. Okay, let me talk about more Unix. Linux. Okay, so Linux is basically open source operating system. Okay, it's an open source operating system. Linux kernel is developed by Linus Torvalds in 1991. Okay,
Yes.
next is Linux is a Unix based kernel. Okay, it is a Unix based kernel basically, but it was like later on it was being modified by Linus Torvalds. Okay, so basically it was modified, some of the modifications were being made, and then the Linux comes into picture. This is written in Linux is completely written, I can say, in C and C++ language. Okay, Linux supports CLI and GUI modes both. Okay, earlier we had Unix, right? Unix was not supporting GUI. Unix was supporting only CLI. And Linux can be installed on any hardware architecture, but not Unix. Okay, Unix was hardware dependent, but Linux is not hardware dependent. It can be installed on any hardware architecture. Okay, that is your Linux. I can talk few more things about the open source basically. Okay, so I can say software and source code is available to all. Okay, anyone can go and use it. The freedom to distribute software and source code. Okay, so it is like this. Software and source code is available to all the. Okay, but I can remove it. Okay, I don't need to because we already covered, discussed it in previous slide. So this is about the Linux. Any questions till now?
No, I got it.
Okay, fine. Now let me do one thing.
The
Now,
GUI, the GUI modes in the Linux is same as Windows and MacBook or some, or is it
yeah,
different?
right. It is same.
No.
It is same.
So we can just make folders and everything just what we do in Windows.
Yeah, it is. It is similar to that.
But why
Okay.
people prefer CLI over GLI when dealing with Linux?
It
Because
is
I see a
much more. Yeah, it is much more effective. Okay, instead of using GUI and highly used in the market. Okay, executing like if you will see, in fact, over the cloud, you can't use a GUI mode until or unless you doesn't find any particular AMI through the community. So people prefer to use CLI based only.
okay.
Okay, fine. Let me talk about something difference between the Windows and Linux. That's what I would like to talk about. Okay. So if I talk about Windows, then Windows is the copyright of Microsoft, right? It means its a source code is not available over the market. Okay. If you want to use particular Windows, then you will have to pay anything to the Microsoft. Here, its source code, it is open source, its source code is available, okay, available to use, and you are not required to pay anything to use it. Windows is updated version of DOS. Okay, DOS, you may have heard of DOS, right? DOS you heard? DOS full
No.
no, disk operating system. Yeah. See, it's a computer that runs from a disk drive. DOS was a main operating system for personal computer until Windows 95 was introduced in 1995. Okay, so initially here DOS came into the picture. Okay, like there in Linux we had the Unix, right? Similarly here we had uh, DOS. After DOS we had 1995, Windows 1995, and then there were multiple Windows came. It was like this. So this is updated, or I can say advanced user, advanced version of Linux. Okay. Windows supports CLI and GUI both. Similarly, Linux also supports CLI and GUI both, but CLI version is much more popular in the market, which people use. Here we have software extension. Okay, if we need to install anything, then there will be exe file, right? .exe file will be the one which we need to install, or .msi, right? .msi package could also be there for installation. Here we have package extension as .rpm, which we need to get installed. Windows supports PET and NTFS file system. It supports ext2, ext3, ext4, and FSX file system. Okay, these are the file systems which Linux supports at this moment of time. Its bootloader, like which boot your operating system, right? That is NTLDR. Its bootloader of Linux is Lilo earlier. Okay, then Grub and Grub 2. Okay, here Grub 2 is latest at this moment of time. Okay, so these are basically the basic difference which we have between your Windows and Linux machines. Do you have any questions?
No, I got it.
Okay. So while we go to the interview, sometimes people ask what is the difference between Windows and Linux. Okay. So now
The AWS DevOps interview?
in any technical interview, yeah, right. Okay, they may ask in AWS, they may ask, okay, what is the difference between Windows and Linux? Anyone in any interview, people can ask. Okay, it is very basic. In these days, people start from the basics itself. Okay, since from
No.
basics they'll start and then they will go up to the advanced. It is like this. Okay. Now let me move ahead. Let me talk about something. We have different types of login users. Okay, what do we have? We have different types of login users. The one is super user, and the other one is why? Its English not changed. Right, 1 second. Yeah, super user and we have normal user. Okay, two types of users basically we have. The one is super user and the other one is normal user. So if I talk about the super user, then here we have root specifically. Okay, and every time we will see it with hash. Okay, we will see it hash. Here it has, I can say 100% access to execute the commands. CMD execution, or I mean, yeah, 100% access. Okay. Here, if I talk about normal user, here we have any of the user. Okay, like you, Abdul, for example. Okay, we can create any of the normal user here, and here it will not have hash, it will be dollar. Okay, it will appear like this, and this particular user will have 10% rights to run command. Okay, I'm just giving an example. Okay, but it will be having less privileges. The another thing is, if I want this particular user to grant more privileges, what I can do, I can go and I can give it a sudo privileges, sudo user. Okay, I can make him a sudo user. Now it will have extra rights and it will be able to execute the commands. Okay, which are equivalent to root. Then only this user will be able to execute the commands. Do you have any concerns till now?
No, but I got it.
Okay. Now the next, if I talk about, then we have types of login mode. Okay. So there are two types of login mode.
And to change from normal to super user is the same command sudo hyphen su.
I will show you how to.
Okay.
Okay. The types of login mode are two. The one is CLI and the another one is GUI. Okay. So we have to. This is us who will be deciding whether we need to use the CLI version or GUI. So there are two types of login mode. This CLI is being highly used. Okay, and in while we are deploying any of the machine over the cloud, we are specifically using CLI modes only instead of GUI. So any questions till the time?
No, I got it.
Okay, that's good. A minute. Okay. If I talk about Linux storage, okay. So basically, it depends what type of data you want to store in Linux. Types of data stored. Okay. There could be two types of data. The one is system defined data. The another one is user defined data. Or I can say personal data. Okay. Personal data is the data created by any user. That is your personal data. Maybe our files, our folders, all these comes under the personal data only. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what is the system defined data? Right. So system defined data are the data which is available or which get automatically created during the OS installation. Okay, the data which gets available during the OS installation. And also after the OS installation, when we will install any extra application as per our need. Okay, maybe we are installing, for example, HTTPD, right? Its system related files are getting created. Or, for example, tree we are installing, or DNS we are configuring, Apache we are configuring. Okay, LDAP we are configuring, and NTP. So if all those packages we are getting installed, this will come under the system defined data only. And if I'm creating any particular file, maybe one Excel sheet, okay, or any particular video, or any particular TXT file, okay, Although in Linux we don't have the extensions, Linux doesn't work on extensions, but if we are creating such files, then those files will come under user defined data. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Now, open. Okay. Let me talk about something. Okay, this is one of the important part of Linux that, and hardly people know about this. Okay, architecture of Linux. If you understand this, then you will be able to understand most of the things in Linux. Okay, because commands, all these things people used to manage. But architecture, understanding an architecture is really important. Okay, so how it works basically. So something there is known as slash. Okay, what is this slash? Slash is your parent directory, or we also call it as a root directory. Okay, parent directory or root directory. Later on, what happen is we can get them segregated. Okay, so here we have default subdirectory and here we have custom directory. I want to keep it here default. Okay, default subdirectory. Fine, I will keep both of them here. This my screen will not show it. Okay, default subdirectory and custom subdirectory. So here what happen is, if I just go here, okay, there are 19 by default subdirectories are available. Okay, and all of these are OS managed. All of these are related to your operating system basically. If I talk about the custom directory, then custom directories are the one which we gets created. For example, mkdir. Mkdir command is used to create a folder. Okay, maybe I want to create a folder test in the slash. Slash is your parent directory itself. Okay, so into the parent directory, what I want to create a folder whose name is test. Okay, so that is your slash. So here we have 19 subdirectories by default. If I talk about these 19 subdirectories, okay, these 19 subdirectories. Can I do one thing? I'm keeping it here. Okay. No. Okay. Okay. So these 19 subdirectories, if I'll talk about, these 19 subdirectories could be categorized like this. 17 are completely managed by your operating system. Okay. And 2 are users home directory. Okay. 2 are users home directory. And if I segregate them here, One is root home directory. One is root home directory, and the other one is normal users home directory. Okay. So root is your super user. Okay. It has a home directory will be as uh, root. For example, if you want to go into its home directory, you can say /root. Okay. Similarly, here, if I talk about normal user, it is a it doesn't have much privileges, right? It
Yeah.
is because it is not root, right? It is a normal user. So uh, it will be not a super user, it will be a normal user, and it could be with any name. Okay, maybe I can say a name with Anil. I got one created with name Anil. And if you want to go to this particular the home directory, then there will be a folder /home. Okay, and inside that folder, here we don't call it a folder. Here we call it as a directory. Okay, so there will be directory /home, and inside home there will be that particular user's home directory. For example, you got one more user created, so its home directory will be /home. Okay, I got one more user created, so its home directory will be /home /Abdul. Okay, and I got one more created slash. Then its home directory will be here.
Okay.
Um, home /Sita. Okay, it is like this. So this way we will be having multiple normal users home directory which will be available here inside the /home. Anil, Abdul Sidat is all three the users, and the root will have his home directory directly at the slash itself. Okay, this is how we can get it accessed. Do you have any concerns or doubts? Hmm?
Got it.
Okay, so this is the basically complete architecture of Linux. Okay,
Yeah.
tomorrow while we'll be discussing about like about the architecture. Basically, we need to cover what and all basic commands we need to execute. Okay, so these things also we will be validating at that moment of time.
Okay. Got it.